What's unfolding in Israel? The latest that's coming in. Benjamin Netanyahu and IDF chief are leading a meeting with top American officials. Is Trump mulling an attack on Iran? Big scoop that we are bringing to you right now. That Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, IDF Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir and Defense Minister Israel Katz, also the Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer and other senior Israeli officials have met with the Trump administration. Why would they be meeting at this juncture if the United States of America says we do not intend to get involved via military and with regard to troop and weapons? We're also told, in fact, that the Vice President J.D. Vance and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth were also in that meeting. Is it just too much of a coincidence? The meeting took place, remember, with a speculation. If America is deliberating any sort of attack, till now it's only been a war of words. It's only been threats. Maybe I will join, maybe I will not. But is something brewing when it comes to these meetings that are taking place? So we'll be, of course, tracking the latest on what exactly is happening. But at this juncture, I can confirm to you that Prime Minister Netanyahu, the IDF chief, defense ministers, strategic affairs ministers and senior officials from Israeli administration have met the Trump administration too. This is definitely turning into a big escalation. I want to take a quick word on that from you, Sandeep Unithan. Tell me, what are you picking up about this meeting? Is it just too much of a coincidence or something is going to happen?
Absolutely not, Pooja. There is no coincidence here. It's a well thought out meeting, and
Yes.
it is Israel wants the United States to enter the war as soon as possible because we've been told that Israel is running out of the Arrow interceptors that are critical for protecting Israel from the hypersonic IRBMs that Iran has been firing at it over the last couple of days. And the only way that can actually happen is if the United States jumps into the conflict and starts bombing Iran. Now, the imponderable is that Donald Trump yesterday said that he wants 2 more weeks. He's bought 2 more weeks to try and decide what to do. Give the Iranian administration some more time to talk peace. But the other speculation is that it is possibly for Trump to buy time before the 2 additional U.S. carrier strike groups get into position, one in the Mediterranean and another in the Arabian. That's a total of 3 carrier strike groups
and
that will be in
possibly
theater.
gives time to Iran as well. I'm sure they're also tracking and watching. Could they also want to be more cautious in the next 24 hours? Stay on with me, Sandeep, because is this looking like now a full-scale war and if the USA gets involved? But it's already been 8 days. It's definitely a war already between Israel and Iran. Dozens of military targets in Iran have been hit overnight. Missile production sites, a nuclear research facility in Tehran. Iran has also fired more than 400 ballistic missiles, including the Fatah missile. Amid all of this, remember, there have been casualties too. 8 days on, what is this Iran-Israel conflict looking like? The latest report.
The war between Iran and Israel is well into second week, and the relentless missile and drone attacks by both nations has created a massive humanitarian crisis in West Asia. After the hospital attack in Israel's Beersheba, it was a tech park in South Israel that was hit by Iranian missiles, causing severe damage to the Microsoft building. The attack led to a blazing fire in the same compound, which saw several cars gutted.
They're targeting civilians because they're a criminal regime. They're the arch terrorists of the world. They want to have nuclear terrorism, which will put the entire world under nuclear blackmail, and they would use these weapons. That's what the Ayatollah Khamenei says that he would do. He would use these weapons to wipe Israel off the map. Well, he's not going to. We're not going to let him. And we're in the process of achieving a tremendous victory. And our victory is aimed at those 2 goals. People ask me, are we targeting the downfall of the regime? That may be a result, but it's up to the Iranian people to rise for their freedom.
With each passing day, the attacks from both sides are becoming deadlier. Iran launched a wave of missile attacks targeting Israeli military sites. As the countermeasure, Israel destroyed Iran's air defense systems and missiles launchers. As tit-for-tat strikes continue, it seems that there are only 2 possible scenarios that will end it: a de-escalation, which seems extremely unlikely, or a decisive US military intervention. All eyes are therefore on Trump's decision to enter the war. The White House has made it clear that at no cost it will allow Iran to possess nuclear weapons, and Trump's decision will be made within 2 weeks.
And with respect to Iran, nobody should be surprised by the president's position that Iran absolutely cannot obtain a nuclear weapon. He's been unequivocally clear about this for decades.
Iran's stance is not quite clear at the moment. On one hand, it does not want Israel to rebuild its arsenal during a ceasefire, and on the other hand, it stresses on no dialogues and diplomacy amid destruction. But as the two nations wage war watched by the world, the real victims remain humans stuck in the conflict zone. Bureau Report, India Today.
United States of America is moving 30 jets as Iran's attack speculation also grows. 30 military aircraft of the United States of America have been moved from their bases. Now, moved where? From the USA to the countries in Europe, which means basically in the region, but not exactly toward the border where the war currently is happening. However, in the past 3 days, we are told, and we've been tracking the flight tracking data, also reviewed by international news groups like the BBC, they have been able to verify it further. The planes in question are all US military tanker aircrafts, the refuel fighter jets and bombers. This means possibly that is on standby. I'm also quoting from the Flight Radar 24. It appears that there are KC-135s that have been stopped off right now in the US air bases in different countries, especially in Europe. This is going to turn very interesting. Why would this mobilization happen if the USA does not intend to get its military involved? Let's go on the ground to Tel Aviv, that also is facing missile attacks from Iran. Joining me from Israel this evening on 5 Live is my colleague Shivani Sharma. On the ground, Shivani, what are you picking up about, one, the ground situation around you, and also the USA involvement, USA mobilizing its own ammunition and arsenal?
Pooja, I'm right now in Tel Aviv, the heart of Israel, which is seeing the impact of this full-blown war between Iran and Israel. I'll try and show you some images as we speak to give a sense to our viewers what's happening here. Pooja, this is Tel Aviv, and the crowd that used to be here is comparatively quite lesser because, you know, people are preferring to be at safe places, not to expose themselves much because of the sirens and the warnings that are coming in from the IDF on a regular basis. There are buildings that have been hit in Tel Aviv. There are attacks that happened today also in southern part of Tel Aviv. This is in Israel. So this is the place where we see the impact of the war. But yes, the people also say, even though their lives are impacted, they know, they understand that this kind of action from Israel is necessary because, you know, they've been telling me that Iran is working on the nuclear programs that would be directed towards Israel. So to stop Iran, this kind of attack is important for Israel. And on the other question which you said, Pooja, about United States mulling over involving itself into this war. There were meetings last night, very important meetings. That's what we are getting to know, that the IDF chief of Israel, the Prime Minister of Israel, the Defense Minister, they are all meeting United States President Donald Trump and the Vice President J.D. Vance out there for the possibilities of United States joining this war, Pooja. And as you were also mentioning, the jets from United States are moving in close proximity to this area, 30 jets and other assets. We've already reported about the USS Nimitz battle carrier in the seas. So all these movements are happening. And despite this, we must tell our viewers that around 40,000 troops of the United States are already in a close proximity to the Middle East. And as and when required, they can be mobilized towards Israel for help and join
and
the
so
war
is it just a precautionary measure, or is Donald Trump, with his unpredictability, uncertainty, could be up to something? Is he planning something with regard to involvement in the war? Shivani, stay safe, and looking forward to your coverage from Israel and, of course, the Israel-Iran conflict. The US is clearly keeping the world guessing whether it will get directly involved or not. White House categorically stating that Trump will make the final decision to enter into the war within the next 2 weeks. White House has asserted there was substantial change of negotiations with Iran, especially remember negotiations that were expected in the days to come. But there is no way that the Islamic regime could be allowed to possess nuclear weapons. The US is very clear on this. There is an attempt possibly to ease tensions, but whether those diplomatic efforts will they succeed right now at this juncture? Iran has made it clear any ceasefire now will lead to a renewed war. Iran's top general commander stating Israel was in a weak state, must not be allowed to revive with a ceasefire. So it looks like both sides not in support of a ceasefire truce right now. Iran also adding that only 30% of their military capabilities have been moved with the nuke materials to a safer location. A lot of lack of clarity, uncertainty, but that makes perhaps this more of a dangerous conflict. Listen into what the White House is saying.
Regarding the ongoing situation in Iran, I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly from the president for all of you today.
All right, so I want to tell you about in case the USA gets involved, and we have been talking about what kind of involvement that could mean. But the most important will be via their arsenal like the bunker buster bombs. You may have heard of this 3B. What does it mean? This could be to assist Israel to hit especially the nuke materials or the facilities, especially when we talk about the Fordo. I want to take you through the latest. For example, the BLU-109 is very important. Take a look at that. Now, about 250 kgs carried by fighter jets is being used to kill Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah. Remember, one of the biggest catches that came in the conflict. But this is where the USA could get more involved with adding to the arsenal. Then comes in the GBU-28, 1800 to 2300 kilograms that it holds, and again will have to be carried by the fighter jets. This is where USA's power in defense comes in. You must have also heard of specifically the one in their arsenal, the GBU-57. This is perhaps the biggest bet. A massive ordnance penetrator over 13,000 kilogram, warhead of 2,700 kilograms as well. Why is the GBU-57 constantly being mentioned? It's because this could possibly be used, if required, to hit nuke facilities that are deep underground like the Fordo that has faced the speculation of whether it has been attacked or damaged in the past few days. Israel cannot do it on its own completely. Now, the BLU-109 can hit about 6 to 8 feet. Look at how we've made this illustration to help you understand if used for Israel against Iran, how will the USA be able to use its arsenal? Now, GBU-28 is 16 to 20 feet. But look at the GBU-57. It can penetrate about 200 feet underground. Will that be enough? I can tell you that my research suggests even to hit Fordo if required, because it's so deep into the mountain, even this in the first go may not be successful. That means USA may have to assist Israel repeatedly with its weapons and arsenal to be able to then hit deeper with the drilling into the mountains. Now, does that mean that the nuke material has been for now moved away to safer locations, or could this be used to hit further? Is Iran just playing into the PSYOP? So this is what we are trying to understand. Yeah, I want to bring in India Today's managing editor, Gaurav Sawant. He now joins me. He's back in the newsroom. He was in Canada a few days ago. Gaurav, you tell me, when we talk about the GBUs and these big weapons that the USA has, the question is, will it use it to assist Israel, and how can they use it?
That's the million-dollar question. Will they use the GBU-57, which is the bunker buster or the deep penetration bomb? It works in 2 stages. So the first level is it penetrates between 20 to 30 feet, and then the second ordnance, it explodes. And that is where the massive damage is carried out. But then do keep in mind, the Fordo facility is the deepest that Iran has, goes beyond 90 feet. And that's the big challenge, whether one bunker buster can do it incidentally. This can only be mounted on board the B-2 bombers, the B-2 Spirit bombers that are in Guam, and they will have to be flown out of there. Multiple B-2 bombers have been shifted out now to the Indian Ocean region. Will they fly? Will they not fly? When President Trump left the G7 summit, we were told that he is flying back to the Situation Room. They will assess, and an attack could follow in the next 24 to 48 hours. It didn't happen immediately. Then we were told that perhaps another 48 hours for an assessment of situation, and more military hardware was being moved into that region in terms of 3 aircraft carrier battle groups and at least 30 mid-air refuelers with the F-16, F-15s and the F-35s. The B-2 bombers, like I said, already in place in the Indian Ocean region. But when will that big strike order come? At a time when Russia and China are already warning that this could lead to a very grave escalation. So this is where the longer there's a delay, the more the opportunity, that window of opportunity shrinks for the US president. Is he still undecided, or has he made up his mind? He's just giving Iran one more chance to return to the negotiation table and sign the dotted line on that aspect that they will not enrich uranium, something that Iran says will never happen in terms of agreeing to that. So that is why this war becomes very interesting, and this military hardware will give you an indication of what future warfare could look like, especially for Fordo region.
Gaurav, what you've ended it is the main point. I want to thank you for that, because when we talk about this uranium enrichment facilities or the nuke facilities, that appears to be the big issue here. For example, oil, as has been considered in the earlier regime change or other conflicts, is nuke here the big issue. Stay on with me on that, because why is Iran's nuclear program such a threat? Other countries have nuke weapons. Is there a certain regional stability that could be hit if Iran or a regime like Iran, incumbent regime, has the nuclear weapons? Could there be a potential to develop nukes seen as a threat to Middle Eastern stability, considering if other nations in that region don't have it? About the potential to develop or basically misuse it. If Iran gets it, if it's confirmed that it's happening, it's en route, what about the arms race in the region? If Iran gets nuclear weapons, could it trigger a regional arms race in that region, which has been, remember, facing a conflict for decades now? It's not just about the Khamenei regime. What about the proxy armies that Iran supports? What about the militia groups like Houthis, Hezbollah? Can they also get access to nukes? If that happens, imagine the kind of danger, damage, or worse, havoc that can be happening in that region. Now, the questions are being raised is because lack of transparency is being seen here, a history of undeclared activities that has raised a suspicion about the kind of intentions, and especially if they don't want to be a part of a treaty where you can be held accountable and will have to be transparent. There is a pressure tactic here. Limiting Iran's nuke ambitions will curb influence in the region. If it's not a nuke power, it may not be as powerful as possibly other Middle Eastern nations would want that as well. I want to take that question to our senior journalist, Sandeep Punithan. Sandeep, many have asked me this question as well. Why shouldn't Iran have weapons? Why is the USA against it? Help put this in perspective about why Israel, the US, and possibly other countries as well, not as vocal right now, are not supportive of Iran having weapons, and how nuke issue or the uranium enrichment facility has become the big issue in this conflict.
Well, Pooja, firstly, Iran is a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. It signed it in the 1960s. It may have signed it under the Shah of Iran, but the regime of Iran today is a signatory officially to that NPT thing. So that's first things first. Israel and India have not signed the NPT, which means they reserve the rights to produce their own nuclear weapons, which they have. Now, the other thing is that if Iran goes in for a nuclear weapon, Saudi Arabia has said, as recently as a few months ago, Prince Mohammed bin Salman has said that if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, Saudi will go for a nuclear weapon too. It's going to trigger off a domino effect across the region, because then an Iranian nuclear weapon essentially means that the Shias have a nuclear weapon. And Saudi Arabia, which claims to be the leader of the Sunni Arab world, will want a nuclear weapon as well. Now, that could lead to Turkey trying to get a nuclear weapon of its own. So there is going to be a domino effect, a cascading effect where every country in the Middle East which does not trust the other is going to try and go hell for leather for nuclear weapons. And this Fordo enrichment plant, it's a very interesting story that Iran began developing this plant somewhere in 2006 in utter secrecy. It started building this just 3 years after Saddam Hussein's regime was unseated by the United States. And the Iranian regime possibly feared the same thing could happen. At that time, you have to remember, this was after 9/11, the United States was on a roll. It thought it could, unseat regime after regime without much opposition. It did it with the Taliban in Afghanistan in 2001 December. It did it with Saddam Hussein in 2003. Gaddafi several years later. But before that, Iran was really afraid. It saw itself in the US's crosshairs, and which is when they went hell for leather to build this facility, purpose-built, so deep under the ground, so that it could build, at some point in the future, it could build a nuclear weapon of its own, using that enriched uranium that it got from the Fordo plant. So that's the story, essentially, of Iran's quest for nuclear weapons. It is a regime. It's actually about protecting the regime. This is a regime that came to power in 1979, and it's been under unimaginable sanctions ever since there, because the United States never reckoned with the fact that an Islamic regime would overthrow the Shah of Iran, who was a US appointee. And this Islamic regime came in over there, and as of 2003 onwards, began building a Shia axis of resistance right from the Mediterranean to the Arabian Sea. A solid block of Shia-ruled countries from Syria, Iraq, and finally Iran. And that is coming apart today, and Iran is alone, standing and taking the barrage of Israeli weapons.
And we've put out the graphics, the illustration by a data intelligence unit to help the viewer understand why Iran's energy sites, so to say, are under growing threat, and also that Israel and the USA are very clear that this should not be allowed to escalate any further, that they shouldn't have these sites and facilities. Also, Sandeep, like you're mentioning, after Ruhollah Khomeini, Khamenei has been there forever, as it appears, 89 onward, he's been at the helm of affairs. But what has changed this time then? It's not just about threats. Israel has been hit also by Iran, and how, especially in the past 2 days. You must have heard of the Fatah missile. There's been massive chatter as the images surfaced of the Fatah missile. What is Fatah 1, Fatah 2? Why is it such an important boost in Iran's arsenal? It's the first hypersonic missile that Iran has been able to have. Fatah 1 has a length of about 12 meters, but the range is 1,400 kilometers. And the speed, because that's where it gets very significant, is about Mach 13 to 15, which means about 5 times the speed of sound. It can carry 200 kilograms of explosives, equipped with hypersonic glide vehicle warhead as well. But here, why the Fatah gets important. It can maneuver mid-flight. It can maneuver mid-flight to avoid interception. Because what does Israel really boast about? It is the Iron Dome, their defense systems. And one of the reasons that Fatah has been, though it was Fatah 2, but Fatah has been able to manage to hit Israel without interception. It's designed to get past most advanced missile defense systems as well. Now, this one was used by Iran in 2024. Remember that when last year also the conflict that was escalating with regard to Hamas, when Jerusalem had to be struck, that is when Iran had used this one. Fatah 2 is being discussed right now, the one that hit barely about 2 to 3 days ago. This is called Iran's super weapon. It's equipped with hypersonic glide vehicle warhead. It can again maneuver and glide at hypersonic speed. It's a liquid fuel rocket propellant that is used in this case. So we are showing the illustration of what the Fatah 2 looks like. More than Fatah 1, 1,500 kilometers range. Again, Mach 15. 5 times the speed of sound, length about 12 meters for the super weapon of the Iranian regime, 200 kilograms of explosives that it can carry. Again, it's capable of trajectory changes. So Israel may try to intercept it following the directions, but that can change midway, again to evade defense systems, which it successfully did. There is an aerodynamic control that allows steering within the atmosphere. A quick question on that to you, Sandeep, because I saw a lot of chatter on that. It gained a lot of discussion about what precisely is the Fatah and how can it, a missile of Iran hit a country that literally boasts about being able to have its Iron Domes that the world has been looking at.
Well, Pooja, Iran is one of those countries that has invested heavily in long-range ballistic missiles. North Korea is the other country. In fact, there are just a handful of countries that have hypersonic weapons. It's the United States, it's Russia, it's China, North Korea, and Iran is possibly the fifth country to introduce hypersonic missiles. Now, hypersonic missiles, they take off into space and then they re-enter. And when they re-enter the atmosphere, they come in at very high speeds, approaching the speeds that you mentioned, like something like 15 times the speed of sound. And at that speed, that terminal descent of that warhead, it becomes almost impossible for missile interceptors to intercept this missile. And in fact, it's not just the Iron Dome, but Israel relies on the Arrow defense systems. Now, the Arrow interceptors have a range of something like 3,000 kilometers. They are designed to intercept these hypersonic missiles, long-range missiles, when they are out in space maneuvering towards their targets. Now, Israel doesn't have enough Arrow interceptors. It's running out of interceptors, as the reports suggest. And that is where it needs the United States to come in with additional long-range missile interceptors. So hypersonic missiles are literally some of the final weapons that Iran has in its arsenal. It has built several of these weapons over the last couple of years. This is primarily because Iran does not have an air force of any consequence. Its air force is more than 50 years old. It's creaky. The planes were last bought in the 1970s. And they're all American aircraft, incidentally, from the Shah of Iran's time. So Iran has offset its weakness of not having an air force or even a navy by creating this massive force of ballistic missiles. It's got 13 types of ballistic missiles, both liquid and solid fueled. And it's got drones. It's a drone power of some standing. It's exporting drones to the Russian Federation and even in its ballistic missiles. So Iran's primary weapons of first strike weapons are these ballistic missiles.
Interesting, especially at a juncture what you're telling us about the comparison between their air force and instead what they have been building. Finally, they've used it. But do they have more in their arsenal? And now we'll be tracking more on that. Sandeep, thank you very much as always for your perspective and expertise with regard to helping understand. Remember, eventually it's about warfare. Why are these new missiles, weapons? It's like a war we've never seen before in the past few years. A lot is changing. Let me now tell you about how Pakistan has entered into this picture of Iran and Israel conflict. How? Pakistan's Jamiat-ul-Ulema-Islam chief met with the Iranian envoy at the Iranian embassy. During this meeting, Maulana Fazlur Rahman expressed a direct solidarity with Iran. The delegation led by the Jamia chief also appreciating Iran's retaliatory action against Israel. The Jamia chief emphasizing it will continue to support Iran in the ongoing war. Now, this happens after the Munir-Trump meeting took place. Why is Pakistan going all out to try and convince Iran that it's on their side? Now, just like Iran, there are, of course, religiously motivated parties in Pakistan too. They view US-Israel actions against Iran as a threat to the larger Muslim Brotherhood and the Ummah, so to say. But has he been sent by the leadership, or is this just a one-off meeting?